Welcome to Everyday Simple Somatics, a podcast dedicated to helping you find healing through your body's natural wisdom. I'm Dr. Christine Baker, and I'll be your host. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about the Fawn response. So you guys may have heard fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Well, today we're going to talk about that fourth one, fawn, which is a combination of our freeze response and our social engagement system. Often it will show up in your life with patterns of people pleasing, accommodation of others, codependency. So if you struggle with any of those things, stay tuned. I'm going to give you a super practical resource to help support your nervous system to move away from those patterns. And if you are new to this podcast, I'd love to introduce myself. So my name is Dr. Christine Baker. I've been a trauma therapist for over 13 years. I am also a somatic experiencing practitioner, which just means that I'm a person who strongly believes that trauma is not just something we experience, but it is how that experience impacts our body, imprint it leaves on our nervous system. And so a huge part of trauma healing that we miss so often is bringing the body along in the healing process, which is the whole purpose of this podcast. So every week we have new episodes every Wednesday, and we address a specific mental health or relational need with a specific practical somatic intervention. If you are new to somatic therapy and the world of nervous system regulation, I invite you to go to our first 10 episodes. Those are called the Essential Foundations, and they kind of give you the basics of the nervous system and some of the language that you might need to know. And once you get through those, you can join us for these weekly drops. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'd love to invite you to like and subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you are watching or listening. All those little clicks really do help other people find these resources as well, so I very much appreciate it. According to Dr. Stephen Porges, our fawn response is kind of like our social engagement system or our ventral system living in survival mode. So while a freeze is like a complete shutdown, a fawn is more of a complex pattern because it's like a disconnection from our own needs. So there is shutdown there, but also you're hyper vigilant to the needs of others. So it's kind of this like mix of the nervous system states. And the guy who actually created the term fawn response, his name is Peter Walker. He describes it as a survival strategy where we are safety seeking through relationship instead of through shutdown or fighting or running away. And this really explains why people that struggle with people pleasing often report feeling really numb themselves, but also being like really in tune with other people's emotions. So this is a somatic podcast, so we have to talk about the somatic, the body of fawning. And I think that the thing that I notice the most in my sweet clients that struggle with people pleasing, myself, who can struggle with people pleasing, is there's kind of this slight collapse forward, like away from the back body, where all of your, that kind of like support, self-support and stability is found, and towards the other person, right? And that movement pattern really mirrors what's actually happening emotionally, right? Like I am disconnecting from myself, my back body, from my own needs, from my own boundary, and I'm leaning towards what this other person needs instead. So today's practice is going to be all about reconnecting to your back body, your physical support system. We have got to be really close to that if we are going to actually make changes in our people-pleasing behavior. Another great thing about connecting to your back body is it really helps you be present in the moment. So, just like I was saying before, the fawn is like this mix of freeze and social engagement. And so we want to combat that freeze response, that disconnection from reality in the present moment. And the connecting to your back body really helps you do that. So that this is a really multi-purposed somatic intervention for the fawn response. So I'm going to explain to you how the practice works. You can decide if it's something you'd like to try. And if so, I'm actually going to do a little guided practice to take you through it. And then we'll kind of reconnect at the end. Okay. So this exercise, reconnecting to your back body, the first thing you're going to do is you're just going to kind of take stock of your body. Am I sitting? Am I standing? Am I laying down? Just kind of notice where you're at. And if you are someone who tends towards people-pleasing, fawning behavior, you may notice that there is a little bit of a lean forward. Now, I'm not talking like, it's not going to be like this, I'm not saying that. And for those that are listening on the podcast, I like completely leaned over. It's not going to be like that. So much of somatic curiosity and like awareness of our body is like these little tiny moments, almost these little sensations and awarenesses that you question even sometimes, like, was that a thing or did I just imagine that, you know? And so this is just like a little slight lean forward. So just wherever you are, we would just like take a second to just notice like, am I leaning forward? Am I leaning backwards? And then we're going to take a second to really feel the support of whatever is holding us. So our chair or the floor or the couch that we're laying on, whatever it is, we're just noticing that we're supported. And then we're going to bring our attention to our entire back body. So really focusing all the way from our shoulders down to our hips. We're going to notice things like temperature, pressure points, clothing sensations, all the things. And then as we do that, I'm going to offer a imaginary moment where someone is making a request of you. And then I want you to see what happens. Do I kind of collapse forward a little? Am I able to maintain a pretty firm foundation in my back body? We're just going to notice what happens. And there's no judgment, right? Like this is just curiosity about how my body responds and then offering a little support. So then once we kind of notice what happens, we're going to practice being with that request and maintaining back support. Okay. We ready to try this? So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to take a second to just notice how our body feels. Taking stock of what's there. And as you're taking stock, I'd love to invite you to just hold some curiosity around your posture. Is there a leaning forward? Does it feel pretty straight? Is there a leaning backwards even? Just notice what's there. You don't have to try to change it. We're just going to see what's there. And then if it feels okay, I'd love to invite you to just notice where you are supported. Okay, so I'm standing, so I can really feel the support of the ground underneath me, under my feet. It's holding the weight of my body. It's not giving way. My legs actually feel super strong right now, so I'm aware of that. That's so nice. That's nice to notice. And if you're sitting or laying down, maybe you can notice the support of whatever's holding you, the chair or the bed or the couch. And really allowing yourself to be supported by those things, not just sitting on top. I am supported. And I can feel that in my body. It's not just a statement. I am embodying the fact that I am supported. I am well supported. And then now I want you to just put your attention on your back body. So really noticing, like maybe starting at the shoulders. Noticing, are they straight across? Is one forward and one back? Is there tension there? And then kind of bringing your attention slowly down the back body. Noticing how your muscles feel. Noticing temperature. Noticing even where your shirt touches your back body and where it doesn't. Continuing to kind of scan with your attention all the way down, even noticing where your pants hit. And then all the way down to your hips. And kind of like pulling back and seeing the whole of your back body there. Noticing how that back body holds you up, holding it all together. It's holding me up. As you're aware of that, I'd love to invite you to imagine someone in your life saying, "Hey, Christine," or "Hey, your name. Can you help me with this fill in the blank project?" Maybe it's a spiritual community asking, maybe it's your kid's school or PTA, whatever it is, they are asking you to do something that you do not have time to do. Okay? So I want you to imagine that happening and then just notice what you feel. I'm smiling because I felt it immediately. Like my stomach dropped and my shoulders went forward. And I'm not judging it. It's okay. That is a pattern that has been put in there for many, many years. We're just offering it a little support. So I'm going to take a second and just notice any collapse that happens for you too. And then whenever you're ready, I want to invite you to imagine that person asking while your back body holds you up, while your back body supports you. And if you can't physically do it, that's okay. Just imagine it in your mind. It's interesting. I noticed when I imagined that, I actually went backwards a little bit. Just spend some time here. If you need to pause the podcast and just practice, if you need to do that little extra support with your hands, whatever you need to do, we're just practicing maintaining that support in the back body while staying in relationship with the person across from you and relationship with the present. And so whenever you are done, I'd love to just remind you, this isn't about being these rigid boundaries. That was why I chuckled a little bit about the fact that I pulled back, because I am a complex trauma survivor. And so I can kind of tend to live in black and white thinking, right? And so if I'm not fawning, well, then I'm removing myself from relationship, and it doesn't have to be that way, right? We can have boundary and be connected. And so that's just something I need to continue working with, is staying in that upright, supported back body without feeling the need to pull away, So that was an interesting little note for me. But yeah, so it's not about rigid, disconnected boundaries. We are trying to stay connected to ourselves while also engaging the world around us, right? So I hope this has been a helpful exercise for you. That is actually all I have for today. And so I'd love to take a second and just tell you about our podcast for next week. So we're going to be talking about, this is something that's been showing up in my office so much right now. And I know that it is a little bit time dependent, because you may listen to this podcast in June and it's not an issue, but something that's showing up in my office a lot right now is this seasonal affective disorder, which, if you're not familiar with that, maybe you have heard people say the winter blues, or ultimately, I feel sadder when there's less sunlight. So if that's you, you are so not alone. This is such a common issue. And so I really want to spend a little time together next week in the podcast, just giving you a little bit of education about it, but also a very practical somatic skill so that you can be supporting yourself in these winter months until our sun comes back again. So if this podcast has been helpful for you, or you think next week's will be, I'd love to invite you to like and subscribe on whatever platform you are watching or listening. That really does mean a lot to me, and it also helps other people find these resources. So, and if you would like to dig deeper into your own nervous system, I have a weekly newsletter and I send out lots of different resources in there. So I'd love to invite you to subscribe to that. That is in the show notes, as well as we have this incredible community called the Somatic Wellness Collective. It is a monthly subscription service, very affordable, and it provides people with a community of learners who are wanting to learn more about their own nervous system and how to care for it. And so I got lots of information about that in the show notes as well. And in closing, remember, your body has innate wisdom. We just have to learn how to listen to it, and that's what I'm here for. I'll see you next week.